Hello. It is Lynx here, and today I will be reading Chapter 3 of You Got Cool by Explosion Shark on AO3. It is teen and up audiences, and no archive warnings apply. It is She-Ra and the Princesses of Podfic. So if you clicked on the notification thinking it was one you wanted and you're not into She-Ra, apologies. But without further ado, let's get into it. Chapter 3, Think I'm Still in Love with You. The text came in half an hour ago. Do not answer. Still, because anything else would feel too much like rolling over, like asking to get trampled all over, and worse, deserving it. You awake? Katja saw the notification, contemplated it flat on her back, on her bed, half dread and half anticipation swirling in her belly. She and Adora don't text. They never really have. Before this year, they were together often enough for relying on their phones to communicate to be the exception, not the rule. And funnily enough, all that being betrayed and abandoned by her best friend business didn't exactly make Katja particularly chatty. She wraps her fingertips against the bare skin of her belly from where her shirt has rucked up and waits 5 minutes before opening the text. She doesn't bother to reply. Her red receipts have been on since Adora decided to leave, and Katja decided to make it clear that her texts were being received but ignored. It's past noon, anyway. Adora should know better than to ask stupid questions. Maybe Katja's not waking up at the ass crack of dawn like an idiot to watch Adora do laps around the academy track. But that doesn't mean she's sleeping entire Saturdays away. Besides, Katja knows, are you awake? Isn't ever the question anyone means to ask. It's a prelude, a lead into the thing that they really want. And Katja's exhausted from barely sleeping, stress headache building from the pile of unfinished assignments she can't seem to bring herself to start working on. Skull still buzzing with something anxious and claustrophobic, left over from that weird, miserable conversation with her friends in the caf last week. She's not sure she wants to find out the question behind Adora's question. God, what a headfuck. Katja brings her hands up to her face, digs the heels of her palms into her eyes. The swelling's gone away. The deep purple of the shinier faded to a sticky yellow, but it's still tender, still sensitive. Still aches in that too satisfying way that has her flinching and then pushing harder. Harder. It shouldn't still be in her head like this. It shouldn't be messing with her this badly. So, her friends were idiots and they misread the situation. It should be that simple. Only it's not. Only she spent the last week picking at the scabs on her knuckles and obsessing over every moment she and Adora had ever spent together. She's never done it before, actually. Never examined Adora's role in her life. Up until this year, she's never had to. Adora's just been there, a constant, a fixture, an anchor, ever since they were kids. It had been the two of them for as long as she cared to remember. They'd found each other early. They'd been lucky for it. They'd made that stupid, naive promise of forever and spent the next decade honoring it without a second thought. Of course, Katja had never devoted much time to thinking about their friendship. She hadn't ever really spared a thought to her relationship with her right arm either. But now she can't stop. She thinks about curling up at Adora's side at night, the sound of her heartbeat carrying Katja off to sleep. She thinks about the way Adora's eyes would crinkle at the sides when she laughed and meant it, and with Katja, she always meant it. She thinks about when Adora threw out her shoulder that time, how Katja's own breath had caught in her throat, and when she'd held the ice pack to Adora's bare skin, and she'd hissed and arched, and how the memory still, now, leaves Katja achy and anxious and wanting for something that feels more and more like, fuck, she can't go there. But she closes her eyes and digs her palms into her eyelids, and Adora's face is still there, amidst the explosions of colors in the dark and the heady rush of pain. You really expect us to believe you and Adora weren't dating? They hadn't been, really. Last week, saying so, she'd been so desperate to be believed. Now the same thought rolls in her head and leaves her hollow. She wonders if Adora's friends had ever accused the same. She wonders if Adora's thought about it too. If she misses Katja close to her in the same way. She wonders if the memories of them together carried the same bitter aftertaste for her that she can't stop thinking about. The fact that it might have been more. Or maybe Adora doesn't think of it at all. Maybe she'd lose her mind laughing if anyone asked. Katja's not sure what's worse. Abruptly, she cuts off that train of thought. She forces herself out of bed, shuffles her way to the dresser, and digs out a towel and a change of clothes. The shower's brief and mercifully warm, late enough in the day for the hot water to have come back. The steam clears her head, and the sensation of being clean leaving her lighter when she makes her way back to her room. At least until she lets herself back into her room and finds a door sprawled on her bed. She shoots up at the sound of the door opening, takes a look at Catra's tank top and sweats, the wet hair clinging to her neck and shoulders, and her jaw slides open, cheeks flaming, and won't fucking look away. "The hell are you doing here?" Catra demands, louder than she intends, startled. She winces and kicks the door shut, fumbling to flick the lock shut behind her without looking. You were up, so..." Adora trails off, still staring, still bright red, and this is already weird enough without her acting like a complete freak. Catra sucks in a breath, about to tell her off, and then glances down, realizes, she hadn't bothered to put on a bra after her shower, because she expected, like an idiot apparently, that her room wouldn't be spontaneously broken into by the girl who'd been her best friend for 10 years, who she might have actually been kind of in love with, except she didn't know it because, she is an idiot. "Get out!" Catra sputters, pulling her balled-up bundle of pajamas and wet towels up over her chest as heat rushes to her own face. Adora startles and nods, a little dazed, rising off the bed and making it halfway back to the window before catching herself and stopping. "No, wait, Catra, come on." This is going to be an argument. And she'll have it. Frankly, she thinks she might need it. Something that could disperse the tension that's been swimming up her spine all week. But first, she needs a minute. Just a minute to catch her breath and think and change her goddamn shirt. "Okay, fuck, just shut up a minute," she grumbles. "Alright, yeah." Adora breathes, the palpable relief in her voice tying Catra's stomach into knots. At least she stays facing away. Small mercies. Catra waits a beat, letting a long, slow breath of air escape her lungs and forces the tension out of her shoulders. This is her room now, not theirs. Her space, and she won't let Adora put her on her heels here. She steps up to her dresser, putting her back to Adora and fishing through the drawers for a bra. When she whips the tank top over her head, she hears not quite a gasp, but something close. The sharp intake of breath, like Adora just caught an elbow under the ribs, and Catra remembers a beat too late, the mirror hanging opposite her. She thinks of Adora's eyes on her chest earlier. Imagine she can feel them burning holes into the bare skin of her back and feels herself begin to flush again. But she doesn't rush, just swallows and goes about dressing with a calm she doesn't feel, keeping her fingers from shaking as she clasps the bra behind her back through sheer force of will. She takes a deliberately long time picking out a different shirt because as much as her head is spinning, the sensation of being watched, of having Adora's complete attention in the moment, is something like power, and after a week of feeling helpless and frustrated and confused, she's starving for it. She slides the sweats down her hips after a moment's hesitation, hears that sound again but slower, longer, like a kickball deflating, and fights the urge to look over her shoulder. She wonders if Adora is still watching through the mirror, if she's averted her eyes in embarrassment, or if she's turned around to stare more directly. Any of them feels like a win. She yanks a pair of jeans up her legs and turns on her heel as she does to close up the buttons, just in time to catch Adora's eyes shifting rapidly away in the mirror. Catra doesn't bother to hide her smirk. "So, explain which part of me not answering your stupid text means, 'Hey Adora, come on over.'" Adora at least has the good grace to wince. "None of it, but I miss you." She trails off with this sheepish little grin, this smile twisting the corner of her mouth, cheeks still dusted pink, and it lands heavy in Catra's gut. Because she can still say these things like it's no big deal, like they're just friends, the same as they ever were, and they can spend time together like friends do. She says it like it's such a passive thing to miss someone, like she's not missing Catra because she decided to leave. It's just that everyone figured you got dumped when she left, and that's why you had your little meltdown. The hurt ebbs into anger, tinged at the edges with something like embarrassment as a fresh wave of heat shoots through Catra. Because it's bad enough that everyone thinks that Catra's friendship was easy enough to walk away from. But for all of them that think Catra and Adora were together like that, and Adora could still walk away at the first chance at something better, sets her burning. And then what would this look like? Adora hanging around, sneaking in through the window. Bad enough at night, but here, now, on the weekend during the day where anyone could see. Anyone could see how weak Katra was, how desperate, how stupid to let a girl like this back into her life. You can't just show up here whenever you want to, Adora. Katra bites out, suddenly frantic. Like, who does that? Whoa, okay, Adora says, alarmed. She blinks, reaches a calming hand out toward Katra as she steps closer. My bad, I just thought, I don't care what you thought. Katra snaps. What if someone else saw you? What would they think? Adora pauses, contrite expression melting into something baffled and irritated. What do you mean? Who cares what they think? Me, obviously. Since when? Since you took off and left me here by myself and I found out that everyone thought that... Katra's jaw snaps shut as her brain catches up to her mouth, just moments short of making this awful, painful, embarrassing mess that much worse. For all her idle wondering earlier, Katra knows this can't be something they talk about now. Not ever. She wouldn't be able to handle it, whether Adora felt it too and left anyway, whether she figured it out after the way Katra did, whether she'd find the whole thing absurd, laughable, disgusting, none of it would be good. Everyone thought what? Adora asks, frustrated, when Katra doesn't continue. Just go, Adora. Katra says, lacing the words with as much ice as she can and hoping it's enough. Adora doesn't, because that would be too simple. Katra hadn't really expected that to work, but she figured Adora would lose her patience, snap something back. Adora slowing down, gnawing her lip, inching closer, reaching out. Voice low and soft, is the last thing Katra wanted. What do they think, Katra? The way Adora's looking at her sucks all the air out of the room. She digs and digs for something cutting, deflective, but can barely find enough air to breathe steady under that gentle, searching gaze. Have people here been giving you a hard time? She asks, still so soft. She reaches up slow, drags the tips of her fingers so lightly across the edge of the bruise under Katra's eye. Is someone messing with you? It's like a blow to the side of the head, this terrible, earnest obliviousness. The worst possible joke at the worst possible time, so ugly and out of place, Katra can't help the short, harsh bark of laughter that flies out of her throat. Yeah. She finds herself admitting, too shocked at Adora's cluelessness to care. Yeah, of course they have been. What did you think would happen? People don't like me, Adora. Adora blinks, looking hurt and lost and still so confused it makes Katra's head spin. That's not true. Everyone was always super cool to us. To you, Katra cuts her off. Your friends, Adora, not mine. There's like 4 people here who can stand me at all. Adora looks pained, suddenly out of her depth. I'm sure you... No, who did this? Who's doing this? Tell me, we'll go find them. We can settle this. Whatever it is, we can fix this. There's that set in her shoulders, that gleam in her eyes, that seriousness, and Katra knows she means it. And maybe in Adora's world, it's true. Every problem can be fixed. Every conflict resolved, eventually, somehow, if you want it enough. Katra suddenly feels unmoored, adrift. Farther away from Adora than she has in months. Maybe, somehow. Tired, hopeless more than angry. How are we going to settle this? Katra barely manages to keep her voice from breaking. Her throat feels tight and Adora won't stop looking at her, eyes so big, eyebrows dipped low, pretty pink lips twisted in an expression of such naked concern it feels like it's choking her. You don't go here. You're not a part of my life. You don't get a say. Adora's face shifts, expression more pinched, and when she speaks, there's a sharp, frustrated edge to her voice. Of course I get a say if people are picking on my... Your what? Your best friend? Katra asks, and there's a sharpness to that phrase now that cuts her mouth. It brings the anger back, swallowing her frailty. Katra bites her lip, breathes out hard through her nose, and clings to it like a lifeline. Newsflash, Adora, you don't have one of those anymore. Not here, not for months. And that was your call, not mine. So you don't get to show up and stir shit up for me whenever you feel like it. You don't get to act like it's such a bummer for you that I'm miserable here. I'm not your best friend. Go home, Adora. Go. Katra growls, embarrassed when she feels tears spring to her eyes, but too grateful to dwell on it because at least Adora gets to finally listen. She goes. Catra locks the window behind her. Her weekend's wrecked, basically. Catra spends the rest of Saturday feeling restless, stung. The pressure inside swells, throbbing at her temples, making her skin feel too tight. Scorpia drops by late in the evening with a slice of cold pizza, a not-so-subtle attempt to check on her, and Catra bites her head off. Scorpia takes it in stride like she usually does. It makes Catra feel worse, angry at Adora for affecting her this way, even angrier at herself for being so affected. Catra eats the pizza alone and feels miserable and waits for something to change. Nothing does, except the guilt settling over her gets stuck in her throat. She leaves out the window, sneaks off campus through the hole in the fence near the tennis courts. She walks. She doesn't think about where or why, just tries to clear her head, stay mechanical. One foot in front of the other, in front of the other, in front of the other. Of course she ends up at Bright Moon. That's just the kind of week she's been having. It's cold and she didn't dress to be outside. Catra holds tight to the route of iron bars of Bright Moon's giant gate until her hands go numb. She breathes out puffs of steam and stares at the buildings in the distance. Thinks, insanely, of clambering over the fence, of letting herself into Adora's room, see how she likes it. It's a notion she doesn't entertain long because A, she doesn't even know which building is Adora's new dorm, let alone what room she's in, and B, even in her consequence-free fantasy, she doesn't know what she would do. Her stomach's still twisted with rage and guilt, and she's buzzing with pent-up energy. She wants to break something nice. She thinks of the look on Adora's face at the dance when Catra ruined her big, stupid night and thinks she'd like to put it back there again. Imagines ripping the trophies and the ribbons down off Adora's walls. Imagines setting that stupid, ugly Bright Moon Letterman on fire, dancing around the flames. There's less joy in the thought than she'd hoped for, so she tries again. She could lay into Adora, just let her have it, unleash all the hurt and grief that's been making her sick this year. Tell her what a bad friend she is, explain in excruciating detail all the ways Adora has hurt her. Show her how deep those scars run. Strip the veneer of good intentions away until Adora has to really look at what she's done, has to acknowledge it, has to know how fucked up it is without making consequences. This one feels a little better, but the flash of lights from a security cart breaks Catra out of it, and she remembers that Bright Moon has the kind of security that the Academy can't afford. Briefly, she wonders how Adora's been managing to slip them so regularly, why she'd bother to take the risk just to sleep on Catra's hard floor and not talk to her. Shakily, Catra tears herself away from the gate and trudges off into the night, as if she could leave the thought physically behind. Catra makes it home just before dawn, sprawls out on top of her covers and drags herself bodily into sleep. She doesn't dream. It's a relief. A thump from the next room wakes her just a few hours later, and despite the leaden drag of her limbs, she can't make herself relax enough to fall back to sleep. So she gets up. Scorpia's in the common room, chatting with a few students Catra can't remember the names of. She excuses herself and trots over once Catra catches her eye. "Hey," she says easily, like Catra hadn't thrown a tantrum in front of her just last night. "You hungry?" Catra feels more sick than hungry, but she says yes and braces herself for a trip to the cafeteria. Mercifully, Scorpia surprises her by leading them to an off-campus diner instead. Scorpia buys her pancakes and chatters absently through their meal and doesn't ask any of the questions Catra expects she wants to. By the time she clears her plate, she feels more like a person, and the pounding pressure she'd woken up with behind her eyes has faded. After, on the sidewalk, in the sun, Scorpia asks if she wants to go back to the dorms or if she wants to go tag bathroom stalls at the mall. It's the first easy choice she's had in what feels like ages, and she's grateful. It helps, being out of her room, out of her head a little. The mall is predictably busy for a weekend, but for once, Catra welcomes the distraction of a crowd. They wander aimlessly for an hour. Scorpia laughs at every hilarious, mean thing she mutters about a passerby, without even attempting the disappointed sighs that her humor would have elected from Adora. She nicks a phone charger off of one of those dumb little kiosks outside a sporting goods store because the one she has at home is starting to fray. She fishes change out of a fountain and feeds it into a massage chair outside of the movie theater. Scorpia buys her an orange Julius from the food court, and her heart is finally lighter. She artfully defaces 3 bathroom stalls, tension slouching off her body with each drag of her wrist, the squeak of felt on plastic. She's working on number 4 when the door to the restrooms opens. She tucks herself into the stall, yanks the door shut, and slides the lock in place and waits. It's not security. That much is apparent when a familiar voice filters through to Katra's stall. "Here I sit, broken-hearted," Glimmer reads aloud, and Katra doesn't have to see her face to know her eyebrows are pinched tight in distaste. Her voice chokes off in a scandalized gasp, and Katra can't help it. She laughs. "Who's in here?" Glimmer demands. "Did you do this?" It's too fucking rich. Katra cackles again and exits the stall, shoving the pen into her back pocket on her way out, without bothering to pause and address Glimmer's outraged sputtering. Outside, a lazily grinning Scorpia and a glowering Adora are staring each other down in front of the fountain while an anxious-looking Beau gazes on. Katra whistles once, sharp, and practically preens at how quickly everyone's attention snaps to her. The glare melts off Adora's face, expression shifting to something hesitant, almost timid. Scorpia's easy smile brightens with genuine warmth. Beau continues to look vaguely sick, which is kind of an ideal reaction to invoke in a Bright Moon kid. "Hey, Adora," she says, sulking over, and then just to be a dick. "Joe." He looks offended, but before he can offer some tepid objection, Adora's darting forward, reaching for her. "Katra." Distantly, she registers Glimmer exiting the restrooms. Katra wonders how many times they'll end up here, playing out some private, painful drama in front of Adora's clueless friends. Scorpia's watching her carefully, ready to follow Katra's lead. "Hey," Glimmer bites out, "I saw what you wrote in there about Bright Moon. What is wrong with you? Why do you hate us so much? Go clean it up." Honestly, her head feels like a snow globe after a good hard shake. Too much fluttering and floating around for her to even remember exactly which disparaging thing she'd scrawled on a bathroom stall for kicks 5 minutes ago. "Bite me, glitter." Katra snaps anyway, whirling around to fix her with the most withering glare. Katra expects to be met with the kind of effrontage, toothless sniveling the typical Etheria Heights rich kids are always reduced to around her. She's actually a little impressed when Glimmer just squares her shoulders, steps closer with a glare of her own. "You know my name," she hisses. "Don't talk to me like that. Don't tell me what to do," Katra says, hands curling into fists at her sides. She can feel that familiar buzzing from last night, tension coiling under her skin, a storm brewing in the ropey cord of her muscles. It's almost a relief, the inevitability of violence, a language she is fluent in, a space she knows how to navigate. "You can't..." Glimmer starts, but she's interrupted by Adora sliding in between them, wrapping a hand around Katra's bicep. "Katra, chill." Adora's grip is firm. Her voice is low and serious, and Katra hates it. "Why should I chill?" Katra demands, ripping out of Adora's grip. It takes 2 tries, leaves her feeling bruised and sore, but it's worth it to be free. She's the one who started getting all aggro on my ass. It's just instinct that yanks her forward, taking a menacing step towards Glimmer. It had been a nice afternoon until she'd showed up and ruined it. Until she decided it was her place to tell Katra what to do, to turn Katra's friends against her, to Adora's all broad shoulders, firm, lean muscle. Katra actually stumbles when she slams into her, blocked again from reaching Glimmer. Adora's palm on Katra's shoulder steadies her and holds her at bay. "Don't." The word hits harder than any blow she's ever been dealt. A year ago, it would have been Adora standing in front of Katra, or Adora at her shoulder, backing her up. Tears sting her eyes for a brief, horrible moment, and she won't cry in front of these people. "Of course," Katra says, forcing a bitter laugh into her voice. "Of course you pick her." Adora's eyes widen, and she squeezes the hand on Katra's shoulder tighter. "No, that's not... Get off me!" Katra sneers, pulling away again and shoving Adora back. She puts her weight into it, compounded by the sharp sting of humiliation. Adora's not expecting it, stumbling backwards, almost losing her balance for one breathless moment. She manages not to fall, steadied by Glimmer's hand at her back. "Whoa, hey." That stupid, wounded look on Adora's face is gone, replaced by genuine annoyance. It's a relief to see her so pissed off, finally losing composure. Not so high and mighty now, not so above it all, not so much better than Katra and her pain and her anger. Couch is not sure what Adora's planning to do with that look on her face and all the rage behind it, but when Adora makes a desperate grab towards her, Scorpia is suddenly there, yanking Adora back by the collar of her jacket. Adora reacts without thinking, pulling herself free and shoving Scorpia away, hard enough to send her stumbling into bench. Adora's got her hands fisted tight in the material of Scorpia's coat, leaning in threateningly. "Hey, get your hands off her!" Catcher shouts, pulling Adora away. They lose their balance, both stumbling and struggling, shoving and pushing and pulling, and it's fast. It's thoughtless. Before she even knows what's happening, really, they're weightless, just for a moment. And then they're soaked through and sputtering and aching. They landed in the fountain. Adora's on top of her, and her head is underwater for just a moment before Adora yanks her up. She's sputtering, and Adora looks shocked, and Catcher doesn't even think, just flips them around. Adora curses when her elbow bangs into the concrete of the fountain, sputters and splashes and tries to buck Catcher off, but Catcher digs her knees into the sides of Adora's hips, rides out the motion of her frantic jerking. She digs her heels into the lip of the fountain for leverage and twists her hands in the fabric of Adora's jacket and pushes. Not enough to put her head underwater, but to press her body down into the bottom of the fountain, to pin her there. Adora bucks up again and gets nowhere. Catcher's position too strong to be so easily unseated. She grits her teeth, cheeks pink and with exertion, glaring up at Catcher like she could actually hate her. It feels good. It feels great. Catcher sneers and twists her grip tighter for good measure, bearing down with more of her weight to show Adora just how helpless she is under her. The hateful look on Adora's face evaporates. Her cheeks get impossibly pinker, pupils almost eclipsing the bright blue of her eyes, chest heaving under Catcher's hands, and it takes a second, just a second too long for Catcher to catch up, to really register the hard press of Adora's body under her, the pounding in her own chest, the way she burns at every point of contact. Adora's hips under hers are finally still. Her struggling faded into something charged and surprisingly, shockingly pliant. Her face is open, vulnerable, wanting. It sucks all the air out of Catcher's lungs. Adora's fists in the water above her head uncurl slowly, and Catcher can feel the long, slow breath of air she pushes out of lungs like it was being pulled directly into Catcher's body instead. And then Scorpia's yelling, "Security!" and scooping Catcher up out of the fountain with hands under her arms. They're running before Catcher's even sure of what's going on, dragged along by Scorpia's grip on her arm. It keeps her upright, even as her wet shoes slip and slide on the tile. They manage to make it out of the mall without being caught, cutting through a candle store and knocking over an expensive-looking display on the way. They didn't stop running once they hit the parking lot, or the sidewalk, or even the next block. When they finally do slow down, it hurts to breathe, and Catcher feels like her heart could pound right out of her chest. Alright, so that was Chapter 3 of You Got Cool by Explosion Shark. So, funny thing, it's Tuesday, May 5th. I started recording this April 27th, which was what? I have to think really hard about this, hold on. Because Friday was the 1st. Thursday was the 30th. Oh, yeah, I started recording this a week ago, so that's fun. But, yeah, funny thing, this is being recorded when I would normally be at school, except I did not feel good at all this morning, so I stayed home, because I have a concert in a couple hours. Oh, shit, that's going to suck. So yeah, and if you heard weird grumbling noises past the 10-minute mark, that was my stomach growling. I recorded the first 10 minutes a week ago outside, so if you heard birds chirping or like nature noises, that's why. I don't know why, I just felt possessed to record outside. But remember to eat, sleep, drink your water, and take your meds. And when you sleep, go to bed at a reasonable time. And y'all can't clown on me because it's only like 2 p.m. Also, side note, I'm so happy because I just wrote a little eerie one-shot to Undoom, Toga, and Ochako. And I have written it specifically for Kat, or Put Your Hands Up Podfics, and she's gonna read it, and I originally wrote it because she said she hadn't gotten permission for any Toga Choco any Toga and Uraraka fix, and she really wanted to do one. So I wrote it, made art for it, and was like, here you go. Feel free to do this whenever you want. You have my permission. And because this had happened, I had been sitting in a voice chat with her and a few others, and she mentioned it. It was late at night, so I was muted when she mentioned it, but yeah, inspiration struck, and I wrote a whole ass one-shot. You guys should know my AO3 account by now. Honestly, I should probably link it in my profile. You know what, sure, I'm gonna link it in my bio, my AO3 account, that is. Don't forget to join my Discord, that's always fun. And, you know what, anyways, remember kids, be do, and crime guy.